Hello everyone and welcome to yet another video on the review series. Remember, this is a short series of videos uh, with the intention of helping you review the grammar topics in preparation for your final exam. Now, let's continue with this. So, present perfect with for and since. This is a quite interesting topic. Not as difficult as you may think. It is actually very simple. Let's look at this a little bit. Making the past more specific. As I told you before, the present perfect refers to past actions that are not defined by time expressions. But in the case of for instance, we can actually give a little bit more, um, well, yeah, we can give a little bit more sense to the present perfect tenses, talking about periods of time. But look at the notes. Even though the present perfect is referred as the indefinite past due to its lack of time expressions, it can actually be defined by using periods of time. These periods of time are introduced by the prepositions for and since. The preposition for is used with amounts of time such as hours, days, weeks, months, years, and the like. For example, 3 hours, 4 days, 6 weeks, 8 months, 10 years, and so on and so on and so on. The preposition since is used with the specific moments in time, which can be specific dates, years, moments, or events. For example, January 5th, 2007, when I met my wife, when I was a kid, or since I was a kid, since I got married, since I graduated, or something like that. But this works better if we look at some examples. I have lived in the city for 5 years. Linda has played the piano since she was 7. They have worked on the project for 2 weeks. I have taught English since 2007. We have played in the band for 6 months. Helen has written articles since she got married. Now, if you notice, the present perfect sentences with for instance follow the exact same structure as the present perfect in the usual way. If you notice, yes, here is the subject, the auxiliary verb, which is have for the case of I, and then the verb in the past participle and the object of the sentence. Then we have the period of time, which is 5 years, but it is introduced with the preposition for. I have lived in the city for 5 years. Second example, Linda has played the piano since she was 7. Again, the present perfect structure, subject, auxiliary verb has, because of the third person, then a verb in the past participle and the object. And again, the period of time established by since. And if you notice, as I told you before, for and since are used to mark specific periods of time for the present perfect actions, but they refer to periods of time, sorry, they refer to periods of time in different ways. For example, in the case of for 5 years, we talk about, 5 years. That means that 5 years ago, I wasn't living in the city. I lived somewhere else, and then I moved to the city 5 years ago. So I have lived in the city for 5 years. In Spanish, we have something similar like por tanto tiempo. I have lived in the city for 5 years. Will be similar in meaning to por 5 años. Linda has played the piano since she was 7. Again, this is a period of time, but it is actually refers to a specific moment in time. In the life of Linda, the moment she was 7, maybe she started learning to play the piano, or maybe just when she turned 7, she already mastered the piano technique. So Linda has played the piano since she was 7, or in other words, in Spanish we have desde que tenía 7 años. Okay? Look at all the examples, check the notes before, and the previous notes I showed you. No big deal. It's not difficult. It's quite simple. And you can use for and since interchangeably. Can you refer to the same thing with for and since? Yes, you can. But let's look at something else. Now we have the questions. Questions in the present perfect with for and since use the expression how long. And if you look at the structure here, it's very simple. How long, auxiliary, have or has, subject, verb in past participle, and object. Look at the examples. How long have you been a teacher? I have been a teacher for 11 years. How long has she worked in the office? She has worked in the office since last year. And there is a special note. For and since are interchangeable, as I mentioned before, as the amounts of time and the specific periods are equivalent. For example, I have lived in the city for 5 years. Or, I have lived in the city since 2013. Okay, teacher, how do you know that it's the same? Well, remember, we're talking about the present perfect with for and since. We are talking about an activity or action that took place in the past, but its effects are still observable in the present day. We're talking about today, the present day, the present day, the present year. Sorry, I repeat that. Okay. So, if I have lived in the city for 5 years, it's the same as saying I have lived in the city since 2013. Why? Because 5 years ago, it was 2013. Remember, the present is 2018. So 5 years ago, 2013 is exactly the same. Remember, you can use for and since interchangeably as long as you respect the equivalency of the periods of time. Okay? So 5 years ago should be similar to 2013. The only case in which we cannot make this equivalence is with since, but with a specific moment. Since I got married, for example. Or I can say I have been married for 8 years or since 2010, but that's it. Okay? Now, I think is well, that's it. Yes, that's it for today. Well, that's it for the video. If you have any questions, doubts, or comments, please let me know about it in the community or in YouTube. If you're watching this video on YouTube, you can leave a comment if you wish. As usual, I really hope these videos are useful for you in your preparation for the final exam, and I'm glad to make them. Okay, this is kind of a new thing for me. Well, thanks a lot. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in class. Bye.